Are you an iPhone 14 Pro or Pro Max user who is thinking about upgrading to 15 Pro or 15 Pro Max for camera updates? Then you need to watch this video for some very important information. Okay, so I don't want to be a bearer of bad news, but I did some investigating online, and a lot of this information is not yet readily available on the mainstream YouTube channels, blogs, websites, etc. What happened is that I found some information online where people did investigations, and they found that actually 14 Pro cameras are exactly the same as iPhone 15 Pro cameras. So to be sure, iPhone 15 Pro Max does have a brand new 5x telephoto lens, and that is completely new. However, even on the 15 Pro Max, the wide angle, ultra wide, and the front facing selfie camera have exactly the same optics and sensors. Apple has indicated that 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max have an additional and improved lens coating which should reduce reflections. Also, both of the phones have the latest version of image processing, which should in theory improve images. However, we really need to see some side-by-side comparison with the 14 Pro to know whether or not these differences are significant. Additionally, both 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max can record to external USB-C storage, and both phones support professional video color grading, which makes editing in post-production much easier and accurate. So the reason I wanted to share some of these news with you is because, quite frankly, I don't think Apple was as clear on the differences, or really the lack of differences, in the majority of the lenses on iPhone 15 Pro. And as I said, really it is only the 5x telephoto on the new 15 Pro Max, which really seems to be a different lens compared to the 15 Pro equivalent. And ultimately, I know that people will be spending significant amount of money either buying these phone outright or even if you're upgrading, and I feel that you do deserve the most accurate information before you spend your hard-earned money. Now, some of you may say, well, hold on a second, didn't Apple mention in their presentation that iPhone 15 Pro has a larger sensor? However, there are two things to consider. Number one, if Apple really did change the optics or the sensors or a combination of the two on the 15 Pro, you can be sure that they would have taken the time to point out these differences. In reality, when we compare the specifications that Apple provided for 14 Pro versus 15 Pro, you will see that there's basically no difference between the two, and you would be very hard pressed to point out which of these specifications belongs to which phone unless you look at the color of the phone. Additionally, you need to go back to the presentation and listen very carefully to what the presenter says. The person says the following: iPhone 15 Pro has a larger sensor than iPhone 15.
Last year, we introduced our innovative 48 megapixel camera, which users love for their beautiful high-resolution photos. iPhone 15 Pro features a more advanced 48 megapixel main camera, with an even larger sensor than iPhone 15.
However, when we compare iPhone 15 specifications to those of iPhone 14 Pro, we can see that due to the differences in aperture, this seems to indicate that although both iPhone 14 Pro and iPhone 15 have a 48 megapixel sensor, iPhone 15 actually has a slightly smaller sensor. In other words, it seems that iPhone 14 Pro and iPhone 15 Pro, for their wide camera and also for ultra wide of course, are in fact using the exact same sensor and optics. And in fact, on the iPhone 14 Pro and 15 Pro, even the 3x telephoto is again going to be exactly the same. Everything that I just mentioned needs to be taken with a grain of salt, because we ultimately will not know what sensors and what components are used in the new iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max until reviewers start doing side-by-side comparisons of the photographs, of the videos, and of course until organizations such as iFixit are able to do a full teardown of the new phones to really determine what sensors and components are in them. An additional consideration is also that as of iOS 17, iPhone 14 Pro will also gain the ability to do 48 megapixel HEIFF files, which means that your phone will be able to shoot 48 megapixel photos without the need for you to record them in RAW and then have to do additional conversions. As always, let me know in the comments if you have any specific questions, or if you feel that maybe this information that I'm providing to you is not accurate. And also, if you feel that maybe you were slightly misled by the way Apple made the presentation when they were discussing the camera systems in the new iPhone 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max. Thanks for watching, and I hope that this information can help you make a more informed decision.